All right, let's dive into Western Digital's latest earnings. You sent over a whole bunch of stuff, articles, transcripts, presentations.
Yeah.
So it looks like you really want to get a grasp on how they're doing. I get it. Earnings calls can be
Dense.
dense, tough to really understand. But that's why we're here.
That's
We'll
right.
break it down for you, pull out the important stuff. We're going to focus on giving you those key insights.
We've got the transcript, press release, and the investor presentation. We're going to extract the key takeaways and especially look at earnings per share, revenue, and...
That forecast.
Yes, the forecast.
And we'll make sure to explain everything at
an expert level.
Yeah, an expert level, so you can really understand what's happening, not just what the numbers are, but the
why.
Why, yeah.
So let's jump right in, start with those headline numbers. Western Digital's Q1 2025 revenue was $4.10 billion.
Okay.
That's a 9% increase from last quarter and a big jump, 49% year over year. Non-GAAP earnings per share were $1.78.
Wow, okay, right away we see some pretty strong growth there. Yeah. What's behind these numbers?
Well, a few key things are happening here. First, their enterprise SSD performance was really outstanding. Revenue in that segment grew 76% from last quarter.
Wow.
Reached its highest point since Q4 2022.
That's massive. What's causing that kind of growth in that market?
Well, it's all about that demand from data centers. And that trend is just being amplified by the rise of AI.
Right.
The AI data cycle, that's what they call it. It refers to there's huge amounts of data that are needed to train, operate all those sophisticated AI models.
Yeah.
And you got to store that data somewhere.
Makes sense. So anyone watching the AI space, this is like...
a big signal.
Yeah, a big signal. Data storage, those needs are just skyrocketing, and looks like Western Digital is really taking advantage of it.
Yeah, they are. And this isn't just some, short-term thing. Enterprise SSDs, they're projected to be a really significant part of Western Digital's total flash bit shipments for fiscal year 2025, something like 15 to 20%. That's up from their original projection around 10%.
Yeah.
So clearly demand is even higher than they expected.
Now, this might be a little surprising. It's not just flash storage that's doing well. Western Digital also achieved record revenue in their HDD segment.
Yeah.
You'd think those hard drives would be fading away, in the age of flash, but
right.
It seemed to be as relevant as ever.
It is surprising when you think about it, but when you consider just the massive amount of data that has to be stored long-term, especially by these cloud providers, hard drives, there's still a really cost-effective solution. And Western Digital's Ultra SMR technology is a key part of this.
Let's break down that Ultra SMR tech a little bit. Sounds like it's a big deal, but I'm not sure everyone's familiar. What is it and why is it so important?
Ultra SMR, ultra shingled magnetic recording, it's a way to put more data on each hard drive platter. Imagine, like, you're arranging books on a shelf, With Ultra SMR, you can kind of overlap the books a little bit so you can fit more in the same space.
So more data, same footprint.
Exactly.
Got it. Any downsides? Does this affect, like, the performance or the reliability?
That's what's impressive. You get that increased capacity, but you don't have to give up those important factors. They offer unmatched reliability, quality, and performance, making them a really strong option for these data-intensive applications, especially in those data centers.
So it sounds like Western Digital is doing well in both the flash and the HDD markets.
Yeah, they are. And it seems like this Ultra SMR is really catching on quickly.
Yeah.
They've already got 2 major cloud providers as customers, and another one's about to join them.
Oh, wow. That's a really good sign.
Yeah.
It seems like this tech could really change things, especially with those data demands growing all the time. But let's talk about their financials for a second. Their press release was talking about a strong gross margin, 38.5%.
Yeah.
Which is even better than what they had predicted.
Yeah, their financial performance was really solid this quarter.
Okay.
That margin improvement is due to a few things. A better mix of products, better pricing, and they've been working on reducing costs. All of these contribute to a healthier bottom line.
Right. So everyone's going to want to know what's next for Western Digital.
Right.
What guidance did they give? What are they looking at for next quarter?
Yeah, so they are saying revenue should be somewhere between $4.2 and $4.4 billion next quarter.
Okay.
This suggests that they're going to keep growing, although maybe not as fast as we saw in Q1.
Right.
Their forecast for non-GAAP earnings per share is between 1.75 and 2.05.
So steady growth, even if it's not as explosive as last quarter.
Yeah.
But it's important to keep in mind that, like, seasonality can play a role here, especially in that March quarter.
That's a good point. Overall, though, the outlook is positive. They seem to be well positioned to really benefit from this, continued growth we're seeing in data storage.
And speaking of positioning, we can't forget that big news,
Right.
Western Digital is separating their Flash and HDD businesses.
That's right.
What's the latest there?
Well, they've just finished what they're calling the soft spin phase.
Okay.
This basically means they're running two separate systems behind the scenes,
Oh.
almost like a trial run before the official split. You can think of it as having like two separate teams and processes, even though they're still under one roof.
So they're really laying the groundwork to make this a smooth transition.
Exactly. And they're on track to file all the necessary paperwork pretty soon. And they expect the separation to happen around their next earnings call.
So this is something that could have a big impact on Western Digital's stock price, their overall strategy. Definitely something to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Now let's shift gears a bit and take a look at that investor presentation. I'm particularly interested in their outlook on the data storage market as a whole.
Yeah.
Do they see this growth continuing, or are there any potential challenges on the horizon?
That's a great question. The presentation really highlights that AI data cycle we were talking about
Right.
as, a main driver of growth for both their Flash and HDD businesses.
Yeah.
They're seeing that surge in demand for storage solutions that can handle these enormous data sets needed for AI.
Okay, so the AI boon is good news for Western Digital.
Yeah.
But are there any other trends or factors influencing the demand for data storage?
Oh, absolutely. The growing adoption of cloud computing is another big factor.
Okay.
Then you've got the Internet of Things with all those connected devices generating data and just the overall increase in data from, businesses and consumers.
Right.
All of these are contributing to this expansion of the data storage market.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how all these technological advancements are creating this, ripple effect, driving the need for more and more storage. And it sounds like Western Digital is in a great position to benefit from this with their portfolio of both Flash and HDD solutions.
Exactly. They've got that strong presence in both markets, which gives them that flexibility to really address a wider range of customer needs.
Now let's turn to the Q&A section from the earnings call transcript.
All right.
Analyst questions can often offer a different perspective on a company's performance and strategy.
Yeah, they can.
So what were some of the key takeaways from that discussion?
Several things stood out to me. There were quite a few questions about the progress of the Flash and HDD business separation.
Right.
Investors are definitely eager to hear how that's unfolding.
Yeah, it's a big move, and there's a lot of curiosity about how it will impact both businesses once they're independent.
Right. And Western Digital emphasized that they're right on track with their separation plans, and they repeated their commitment to a smooth process.
Okay.
They also gave some insight into the financial side of things, explaining that they're already operating with two separate cost structures behind the scenes.
So they're not waiting until the official separation to start managing the businesses independently.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah, it shows they're taking it seriously and getting ready for that transition.
Yeah.
Another topic that came up a lot was their record high HDD revenue.
Oh, yeah.
Analysts were really trying to understand what was driving this growth and if it was sustainable.
What insights did they offer about the HDD market?
Well, one analyst asked about the possibility of double ordering or inventory buildup, basically wondering if the demand was artificially inflated.
Right.
But Western Digital assured them that they're not seeing any indication of that.
Okay.
They believe the demand is real and driven by that need for cost-effective storage for those massive data sets.
So the demand is real. That's reassuring.
Exactly. It reinforces their view that the growth in HDD demand is coming from those fundamental market trends.
And of course, the analysts were interested in Western Digital's Ultra SMR technology, especially how it's being adopted by those cloud providers. What did we learn about how Ultra SMR is doing in the market?
They confirmed that two major cloud providers are already using these drives, with a third one coming soon.
Wow.
This suggests that the industry is seeing the value of Ultra SMR for these high-capacity storage applications.
Yeah.
They even just launched a new 32 terabyte Ultra SMR drive.
Oh, wow.
Really pushing those boundaries.
So they're really innovating in that space.
Yeah.
Did they share anything about their future plans for products, their overall technology investments?
They emphasize their commitment to research and development, especially in areas like next-generation NAND flash memory and even more advanced HDD tech.
Right.
They believe that constant innovation is key to staying ahead in this market that's changing so quickly.
That makes sense, especially with this business separation coming up.
Yeah.
Did they talk about how they're approaching investments in manufacturing, given how strong demand is for both Flash and HDDs?
They talked about having a disciplined approach to capital allocation. They're carefully evaluating their capacity needs based on customer demand and market trends instead of just rushing to expand.
Right.
They said that their current manufacturing setup is enough to meet demand for now.
So they're taking a measured approach.
Exactly. It's about maintaining that balance between supply and demand.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Now, one thing I found really interesting was the discussion about pricing.
Okay.
Given this strong demand, especially for HDDs, analysts wanted to know how Western Digital is handling those conversations with customers.
It's a good question. Are they trying to, like, raise prices because of the demand?
Well, they said they're focused on giving value to their customers.
Okay.
They think pricing should be based on the total cost of ownership, not just the initial cost.
Yeah.
For example, they said their Ultra SMR tech offers a lower total cost of ownership compared to traditional HDDs because of the higher capacity and efficiency.
Right, right.
It's a smart approach, shows they're thinking long-term and building those relationships.
Yeah.
It's about creating those win-win situations. Yeah.
They seem to understand that sustainable growth depends on having strong customer relationships and delivering solutions that really meet their needs.
Yeah, so far we've uncovered a lot about Western Digital, their recent performance, their strategic decisions, and their view on this changing data storage landscape.
We've looked at the numbers, the technology, and the market trends.
Yeah.
So in the last part of our deep dive, we'll step back and try to put all this information together.
Okay.
We'll explore what it all means for investors, for the whole industry, and for the future of Western Digital.
Sounds good. Stay tuned for the final part where we'll tie it all together and give you some things to think about. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been through Western Digital's performance, their strategic choices, and all the things that are shaping the data storage world. Now, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. What does it all mean? What I find really fascinating here is how Western Digital is managing this time of big change, both inside the company and in the industry as a whole. The AI data cycle, it's creating a huge shift in demand, and Western Digital seems to have seen this coming by positioning themselves with a strong set of those high-capacity drives.
Yeah, the focus on capacity, especially with that Ultra SMR tech in the HDD space, could give them a real advantage in the coming years. It's like they're playing a different game than some of their competitors who are still mostly focused on performance.
They are. While others are focused on squeezing more performance out of current technology, Western Digital is betting on that huge volume of data that needs to be stored. It's a smart strategy. It fits right in with the trends we're seeing with AI, cloud computing, and the Internet of Things. And when they separate their businesses, each part will be able to really focus on its own strengths and opportunities.
So what does all this mean for investors who are watching Western Digital?
This is where it gets really interesting. Separating the Flash and HDD businesses, it could unlock a lot of value. Investors will get to choose which part of the story they want to be a part of based on, their own risk tolerance and investment goals.
It also makes each business a more attractive target for acquisition, right?
Yeah.
Think about a cloud provider or a tech giant that wants to boost their data storage capabilities.
Exactly. A separate Flash or HDD business with Western Digital's experience and market share, it could be a tempting prize. It wouldn't be surprising to see some big players making moves in that direction.
So if you're an investor, Western Digital is definitely one to watch. There could be some big changes ahead. Okay, before we wrap up, I want to touch on one more thing. We talked about the AI data cycle and this massive growth in data storage demand. What about the environmental impact of all this? Data centers use a lot of energy, and if we need more storage, we'll need more data centers.
That's a really important point. We need to think carefully about how sustainable this data-driven growth is. Companies like Western Digital, they have a responsibility to develop energy-efficient solutions and find ways to reduce their impact on the environment.
It's a good reminder that when technology advances, we always have to consider its wider impact on the world. Well, that's it for our deep dive into Western Digital's earnings. We've gone through a lot, from the financial figures and tech innovations to the bigger implications for the industry and even the environment.
We hope you found it useful and that you now have a better understanding of where Western Digital stands today and what their future might hold.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. Until next time, keep learning.